Hi besties, my name is Maddie and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be going over the 18 books that I read in June. I had such a good reading month. I got through so many of the books I wanted to read. I think I got through every single one on my TBR besides 2 in the Empire series, which is insane for me because usually I don't complete any of them. I found a few new favorites, but a lot of good ones still. A few disappointments, but what can you do? So let's jump right into the 18 books I read this month. Also, so sorry if you can hear the dogs snoring. They're snoozing on the bed. I don't want to wake them up. So most of these books are available on Kindle Unlimited. That's how I read majority of them. That's why I don't have like the physical copies for a lot. So the first book I read this month was Thorns by Rena Kent. I rated this book 4 stars. It wasn't my favorite in like the Renaverse, but it didn't like deter me from like wanting to continue like in the series. So this follows Naomi and Sebastian. It's the second one in their Thorns duet. And I don't really want to say much about what happened in the second one, so I don't spoil what happens obviously in the first. But they just don't really like each other. There was a dare that happened when they were in high school, and now they kind of butt heads, shall we say. And they don't like each other at all. And it's just their kind of relationship and their journey. And it was fine. I wasn't a fan of both of these characters. I think that's kind of where it wasn't like a top contender for me in the Renaverse. Then I read Collided by Lauren Asher. I rated this book 3.5 stars. It also wasn't one of my favorites. I was not vibing with these two characters at all. So this follows Sophie and Liam. And Liam is obviously an F1 racer. He's like a bad boy, I guess, in like their little racing world. And I did not like him. I'm gonna be so for real. I did not like this guy at all. So I think that's what really deterred me from this little story, I guess. I was not a fan of like how he acted. I don't know, it's just something about him rubbed me the wrong way. So I already was not vibing with the book. I also didn't really care for her either. All around, it just wasn't my favorite book, and which makes me so sad because I loved every single one of Lauren Asher's books I've ever read besides this one. So this one I just think was a me problem because usually I love her books. So this follows our 2 main characters, and I think Sophie has like a bucket list that she wants to complete, and then Liam is going to help her do that. And it's like a cute premise, so if that sounds interesting, definitely check it out. It just was a personal problem for me, not a book problem, you know. Then I read The Stillwater Girls by Minka Kent. I don't know if I'm saying their name correctly, but we're just gonna roll with it. I rated this book 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. The only reason I think I was let down is because I'm so used to reading like Frida McFadden thrillers where there's like something extremely like big that happens at the end, and this one just kind of like faded out and like came full circle without it being like in your face. So I think I was going into it with like a higher expectation of what the ending was going to be. But I really enjoyed like the premise of the actual story. So this follows 2 sisters, and they kind of live off the grid. They've been sheltered their entire life. And then their youngest sister gets sick, so their mom decides that she's going to take her like obviously out to like see a doctor or something like that. And leaves the 2 girls, and she just ends up not coming back. These girls are just like fending for themselves out in the middle of nowhere when a man shows up and they have to like get away from him. And it's them learning about what the world is actually like instead of just being so sheltered, because they don't have like electricity, they don't have a TV, they don't have anything. They have no idea that like this world exists, and it's them like being so shell-shocked about what's going on. And it was really interesting, and like the timeline of everything, like how these characters all met and kind of like fit in with each other's lives was crazy. But I had such a good time with it. And if you're in a mood for like more of a thriller without like a big in-your-face like plot twist, definitely check this one out. Then I read Empire of Desire by Rena Kent. I rated this book 4 stars. I had such a good time with this one. This is best friend's dad. It's age gap. I love every little part of it. So this follows our 2 main characters, Gwen and Nathaniel. Nathaniel is obviously Gwen's father's best friend, and Gwen's father ends up getting in a car accident where he's kind of like in a coma, and he's like a real big, powerful businessman, I guess. And so in order for the company not to like go under or like be taken away from them, Nathaniel agrees to marry Gwen to like keep it in the family, I guess you could say. And it's their relationship because Gwen's always had a crush on him, and the tension and just that age gap of like it was so good. Rena Kent's writing is so easy to get into, super easy to follow along the storyline. And this is in her Empire series, but I believe they can all be read as standalones. But definitely check out this one because it is so good. Then I read Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. Listen, I think I rated this book 2 stars. Listen, I didn't like it. I was not a fan of it. It was not my cup of tea. I didn't like these characters. Okay, listen, again, like with Love and Other Words. I enjoyed like the first like 50%, and then it all went downhill real fast. And then I'm gonna put these two together. So I read Throne of Power and Throne of Vengeance by Rena Kent. I think I rated both of them 4 stars. I really liked this story. I loved that our FMC in this was like a powerful mafia woman. Loved that. So this follows our 2 main characters, Ray and Kyle. Ray is like some powerful mafia woman, and then Kyle is like a hitman, I guess you could say. And she agrees to marry him because of something with like something in the world, you know? Something about getting different people together. I don't really know, but she agrees to marry him, and they both don't like each other, and that's basically it. That's basically just their little story that they have. And I thought it was very entertaining. I really enjoyed it. I really liked these 2 characters together and separately, and it was a good time. Then I read King of Greed by Anna Wong. I rated this book 4 stars. I loved this one. It's a second chance, marriage on the rocks. So good. The tension and like the pining and the groveling. Oh, I loved every little part of this. So this follows Dominic and Alessandra. And Dominic is obviously a big, rich, powerful man, businessman, something along those lines. And he came from nothing, made himself like a billionaire by the age of like whatever he is. He fell in love with Alessandra when they were in college, and they've just always been together, and he's always just worked extremely hard and kind of put like his marriage on the back burner. And she's fed up, you know, she's had enough of his antics, you know, so she dips. And it's their story of how like he is like wanting to win her back, and it's like past and present timelines. I loved it. I loved the storyline. I loved the angst. I loved the tension. I loved like the pining and her like not wanting to go back because like she was heartbroken, you know, and then for him to also be heartbroken a different way. Like it was so good, and it was such a different book than what I typically read, because I don't really typically read like the second chance books, because I really typically don't like them. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Then I read Empire of Sin by Rena Kent. I rated this book 4 stars. It was good. It wasn't my favorite book, obviously. So this follows Knox and Anastasia, I believe. Anastasia. I don't know how to say her name. So they first meet by having like a one-night stand, and then she dips, leaves, and then she shows up to work, and now he is her new boss, but she's like a new identity. A bunch of other stuff happens, and it is now their like relationship, I guess you could say, on how they're going to like why she's like pretending to be someone else, why she won't say like what her name is, and like that whole thing. And so it's going to be like their relationship. It was fine, you know, it was a good time. It was nothing like super memorable, and I legit just finished it like a few days ago, you know, so it was one of those books. Then I got an Arc for Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher, 5 stars. Loved it. Such a good time. Single dad nanny romance. That's all I need. You know, that's all I need. So this follows Ellie and Raphael. Raphael has a a small child, obviously, named Nico, and Ellie is obviously their nanny. And I love that this storyline is that Raphael and Nico aren't like picture perfect. Like they are not BFFs, you know, like how every other single dad nanny romance is always like the dad and child super tight, and then the nanny just kind of gets included. Raphael and Nico, button heads almost the entire time. Loved it. I loved how hard Raphael was trying. So that's basically the premise of the story. It's just a single dad nanny romance. They end up taking a trip, and they go together, and like obviously the tensions are brewing, stuff like that. And it is so good. Also, it's a nice fluffy looking cover, but search up your trigger warnings if you need to, because it does handle some like harder topics. So don't let the cover fool you. So I read all of those books on Kindle Unlimited, and then the rest I have in paperback form. So I read The Sevene Slip by Ashley Poston, 5 stars. I loved this book. If you have not picked up this book, pick it up right now. There is a reason why it is so hyped up. This follows Clementine and Ewan. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. And she is living in her aunt's apartment, and her aunt says like, it's a magical apartment. You can like go in the future and the past. You know, she's like, it's never happened. So she comes home one day, and there's a man in her apartment 7 years in the past. And when I tell you, this book was so much more than just their romance. Like, I loved this story. The author note at the end, sobbing. I was a puddle, and I will never look at a book the same way. Like, it is crazy what this author's note did to me. But the entire storyline, it handles like some harder topics, so to search up your trigger warnings if you need to do that. So good, and I am so mad at myself that I put it off for so long, but I think this truly was like right book, right time. Then I read Killer Instincts by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I read this book 4 stars. Such a good time. You know, YA Criminal Minds, if you have not picked up the National series, pick it up. You know what I'm saying? Pick it up right now. It is So good. So again, this obviously follows Cassie and then the other naturals. So obviously it follows like a serial killer and they're trying to solve who did it, why they did it, stuff like that. So good. This one was not as good as the first one, but still such a good time. Then I had a little bit of a disappointment. So then I read Leather and Lark by Bren Reber. I rated this 3 stars. It just, I loved Butcher and Blackbird. Butcher and Blackbird is a 5-star book for me. This just didn't hit for me. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was right book, wrong time. It just wasn't a favorite for me, you know. Nothing like truly like wrong happened in it. I just feel like it just wasn't a book for me. So obviously this follows Lachlan and Lark. It's like a fake marriage of convenience book. And I don't know. I don't even know what to tell you about it because I just didn't like it that much, you know. Like, I don't even know what really happened in it. It wasn't for me. I think, truthfully, it was just possibly could have been right book, wrong time, you know. But, so maybe I'll see later on, but as of right now, it just didn't hit for me. This book, on the other hand, did. So Next to You by Hannah Bowman Young. Loved this story. I rated this book 4 stars. Such a good time. So this follows Lane and Matt, and Lane has never settled down. She's a free spirit. She does what she wants when she wants. She's always been kind of on the run, if you will. And Matt has always kind of like really liked her. They've been best friends for quite a bit, and he just has always kind of let her do her own thing. And she ends up buying a bus. She recruits Matt to help her fix up said bus, and it's kind of their relationship and how they're gonna work towards it. And it is so good. I loved it. I love these 2 little characters. It was so good. Definitely a book I recommend picking up. And I mean, her writing styles are so easy to get into, and I think the storyline's always super fun. Like, I read this book so fast, and definitely a book I recommend. Then I read Lovely Bad Things by Trisha Wolfe. I rated this book 3 stars. I just think this book fell a little flat for me. You know, I was not vibing with the characters. I wanted to like him way more, and he just kind of fell flat for me. He talked in a lot of riddles. And I think my brain just can't get behind riddles because I don't know an answer to anything if my life depended on it. You know what I'm saying? So I just think he was doing too much without doing anything at all. You know, it has a very interesting storyline. So this follows Halen and Callum. And Halen put Callum away for a crime, I believe. And then now he's back out to help her solve a different crime. Something along those lines. It's giving kind of Criminal Minds. They're solving a case. The ending really threw me for a loop, you know. And I think that's what kind of did it for me. So I don't know if I'll be getting back into the rest of the series. I think there's like 2 or 3 more of these. The first one just wasn't it for me, but I guess we'll see. If I get back in the second one, I don't know if I will. But I believe this one is also on Kindle Unlimited if you want to read it that way. Then I read The Deep by Nick Cutter. I also rated this book 3 stars. Again, wasn't my favorite read. I loved The Troop by him. The Troop was so good. This one just was not my favorite book. I just didn't get the scare factor that I got from The Troop. So The Deep, they basically get on this little submarine and then they go down in the water. Okay, they're in the ocean. And then obviously something's down there that they don't want to let come up or something like that. I didn't really like it, you know. I didn't get the scare factor of this one. It just wasn't my favorite horror book. If you like body horror, check out The Troop by Nick Cutter. And if you like more of like a sense of dread, I think this one is better suited for you. Then I read Him by Serena Bowen and Al Kennedy. I rated this book 4 stars. So this is an hockey romance. Best friends in like high school, I believe, and then they fooled around a little bit, I guess you could say, and then they didn't talk again for a bit, and now they're back doing like a camp, and it's so cute. I love an MM book, you know, so good. MM and hockey, sign me up, you know what I'm saying? This one was so good. I loved the storyline. I loved them like working on it together, working on it separately. I loved the tension that this book created. It was so good. Definitely if you're like dipping your toe into MM, definitely a book I recommend. And then lastly, a book I cannot wait to talk about. So I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Schwab. So listen, I think this is a 4-star book. I still have not put a good ratings on Goodreads yet. I think I'm gonna do it 4 stars. The only reason I am debating on rating it higher is because Bestie Casey annotated it for me. And I think that's what really enhanced my reading experience of this book. I loved that she like left me little notes in like the margins of like what she thought of certain parts. I think her little note at the end really sold it on like a 5-star read. I think she's read this book like 3 or 4 times. And so she's like picked up on all these small little details. And I think without her note at the end of this book, I don't think I would have like fully grasped the understanding of the end, and I was a puddle. I was sobbing when I finished it. It was a phenomenal read, and I think if you have not picked up this book, you need to. So this follows our main character, Addie, and she makes a deal after dark with like this god that she doesn't want to be remembered because of something that's happening in her life. So he grants this, but she now has immortality, but no one will ever remember her once she is like out of their sight. And each year he comes back to see if she is ready to like trade in her soul for like the deal that they did, and she's like no. And then one day far in the future, she goes into this bookstore, steals something, walks out, and the guy follows her, and he's like, I remember you. It's now that story. Yeah, so those are the 18 books that I read in June. Had such a good reading month, got through so many books, got through my entire TBR besides those 2 books in the Empire series by Rita Kent. Had such a good time. Cannot wait for July. Bestie Casey will be here in a few days. Birthday month, and then book Bestie Beach trip. I'm going to be packed full in July, but I cannot wait. Let me know what you read in June, what your favorite read was. Give me like your top read or like one of your 5-star books that you read this month. I want to know what we're all reading. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Love yous.